It is a snowy weekend right before St. Patrick's Day, so that means I've got to bake some Irish soda bread. So I've started off with 2 cups of flour. You can use regular flour or Bob's Red Mill, always good. And to this I am adding 3 tablespoons of butter that I've chopped up into cubes. And I'm going to cut that into the flour to help make it a little more flaky. So we're going to make sure that we work it in much like a pie crust so that we end up with crumbles. And I'll be back. I don't know why my little clicker stopped working. It was so much easier. The lights, I don't know, I am not that tech savvy, but I do know some good Irish soda bread with a name like Tammy Kathleen O'Donnell Westney. I have a variation of this in my book, Food is Foundational, but this version is just a little bit different because I can never leave well enough alone. So it took me about 5 minutes to work the butter into the flour, and I could have done it in the food processor. That would have been a little bit quicker. So next I am adding a teaspoon of baking powder, baking soda. I am adding a tablespoon of monk fruit, half a teaspoon of salt, and I'm not going to add the caraway seeds and raisins yet, nor am I adding the liquids yet. So I'm going to mix these in, make sure they're well dispersed. And if you don't want butter, you could always use, if you want to do a vegan version of this, use coconut oil. And you're going to have very similar results. And don't use the egg then either if you're going to do a vegan version of this. And don't use, I've got a cup of, what I did is I've got half a cup of yogurt and half a cup of kefir, or you can do buttermilk, or you can do all yogurt or all kefir, or you can do a vegan version of those, like an almond yogurt or a coconut yogurt. I think there's coconut kefir too. So now I'm going to mix this up. And as soon as that's mixed in, then the raisins go in. And I don't use caraway seeds. I prefer fennel in my Irish soda bread. And before I started doing all this mixing, I preheated the oven to 375. And I greased a pie tin with ghee. You could use coconut oil. It's entirely up to you. As far as I'm concerned, all cooking is experimental, and you figure out what works for you. So this is coming together nicely. So you can still just use the fork. If you want, you could get your hands in there, but your hands are going to get a little sticky. But you do want to make sure that you get all that flour. And you don't want to overmix it, particularly not if you're using real flour, because then you're going to make it tough because you're going to be activating the gluten. So that looks done to me. I've got 2 teaspoons of fennel seed. You could have caraway seed if you want. And I want to mix them in. And then I've got half a cup of raisins. If you don't like raisins, you could chop up a couple of dates. You could add dried cherries. You could add dried cranberries. It is entirely up to you. Because see, I'm not a purist. I don't use the caraway seeds. I like the fennel. So there we go. That's pretty. So here's the pie tin all greased up. Now I'm going to scrape it out with a spatula because I don't want to leave any of that behind. I even had to ask my husband if I could add raisins to it because he really is not a fan of raisins. But he said he would eat it, so we'll see. I'll probably end up eating the whole thing all by myself tonight while it snows. So I'm going to smooth it out a little bit. I'm also going to scrape this off the fork because, again, I don't want to miss any of this lovely bread dough. There we go. So I'm going to come around the edges, smooth out the top, and that's about as smooth as it's going to be. Now I want to slice the classic X into it. It's not a great X. So I'm going to play with that a little bit. And you can double the recipe if you've got a big family. And again, any variations that you like as well. There it is. So I'm going to bake this for about a half hour, maybe a little less. I'm going to keep an eye on it, and I'll be back. No words needed. It's gorgeous. I baked it for 30 minutes, and I pulled it out at 20 minutes and melted butter on top. Ooh, to make it extra good. So let's slice into this. Let's slice into this. Oh man, look at the crumb on that. A little bit of butter, beautiful Irish Kerrygold butter. I'll tell you what I think. Let's see, that's too much butter. Is there too much? Is there such a thing as too much butter? I don't think so. Let me just melt that in there. There. All right. Delish. Mouthful of food. Recipe will be on the website. Enjoy.